Breaker of this world's chain, we adore thee, whom all men love. Spotless, taking man's form, O purifier, thou art above the gunas three. Knowledge divine, not flesh, thou whom the cosmos wears, a diamond at its heart. Let us look deep in thine eyes. They are bright with the wisdom of God, that can wake us from Maya's spell. Let us hold fast to thy feet, treading the waves of the world to safety. O drunk with love, God-drunken lover, in thee all paths of all yogas meet. Lord of the worlds, thou art ours, who wert born a child of our time, easy of access to us. O merciful, if we take any hold upon God in our prayer, it is by thy grace alone, since all thine austerities were practiced for our sake. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. Perfect, whom lust could not taint, nor passion nor gold draw near. O Master of all who renounce, fill our hearts full of love for thee. Thou hast finished with fear and with doubt, standing firm in the vision of God, refuge to all who have cast fame, fortune, and friends away. Without question thou shelterest us, and the world's great sea in its wrath seems shrunk to the puddle that fills the hoof print in the clay. Speech cannot hold thee, nor mind. Yet without thee we think not, nor speak. Love, who art partial to none, we are equal before thy sight. Taker away of our pain, we salute thee, though we are blind. Come to the heart's black cave, and illumine, thou light of the light. Jai Swamiji Maharaj
Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. Today is the birthday of Swami Premananda, the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna and one of the sixth born perfect, the Nitya Siddhya, the ever perfect. He was born Baburam Ghosh, December 10, 1861 at Anandpur, a village 30 miles from Calcutta. His father, Tara Prasanna Ghosh, and mother, Matangani Devi, came from a well-to-do and aristocratic family of the same village. Both were pious and devoted to their family deity, Lakshmi Narayan. They had one daughter, Krishna Bhavini, who happened to be the wife of Balaram Basu, the great householder devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. Baburam was the middle. The elder brother was Tulsi Ram, and the younger brother was Shanti Ram. At one point of time, Sri Ramakrishna had told his mother Matangini, "Will you give me something?" And Matangini had replied, "Yes, whatever you ask." Sri Ramakrishna said, "Will you give me your son? I want a pure-hearted boy to live here, and I'm greatly pleased even when he gives me a glass of water." Matangani had agreed, but on one condition, that she would never see the death of her children, and also that she have unswerving devotion to God. Sri Ramakrishna granted them both. He studied for a few years in his village school. Then his mother sent him to Calcutta to continue his education. He was first admitted to Banga Vidyalaya, Bengali school, then to the Aryan school, and finally to the Metropolitan School, where Sri Mo, that is M, was the headmaster. From his very childhood, Baburam knew his goal. He was looking for a guru who would help him reach it. He had also, in his quest, began to visit various Hari Sabhas, that is, the congregations where the name of the Lord Hari is sung. And he had seen Sri Ramakrishna there, but it was just a kind of passing kind of acquaintance with him. Tulsi Ram, his brother, insisted that he go and visit Sri Ramakrishna. If he was interested in religion, he should go and meet someone who was like Sri Chaitanya, who used to go into constant ecstasies. And when Baburam Maharaj finally reached one day to Dakshineshwar with Ram Dayal, his son, his friend, Sri Ramakrishna caught hold of Baburam's hand and said, "Come closer towards the light, let me see your face." It was late evening. In the dim light of an earthen lamp, he thoroughly examined Baburam's face, hands, and feet, and expressed great satisfaction. Then he weighed Baburam's forearms by placing it on his palm. It was one of his ways of judging a person's spirituality. It was lighter. If it was lighter than ordinary, he would say this showed a beneficent intelligence. After observing the auspicious signs on his face and body, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Good, very good." He was then about 20. And he appeared, of course, much younger. He was very good looking. He was 5'8" and rather slim. He had black hair and his complexion was like pure gold. During these first visits, Sri Ramakrishna had recognized through his yogic vision that Baburam had been born a part of Radha, the spiritual consort of Sri Krishna. Sri Ramakrishna had said to him, I noticed the other day that Baburam has a feminine nature. In a vision, I saw Baburam as a goddess with a necklace round her neck and with women companions about her. He has received something in a dream. His body is pure. Only a very little effort will awaken his spiritual consciousness. And on another occasion, he had described Baburam as the ever-perfect soul, Nitya Siddha. The others were Narendra, Swami Vivekananda, Rakal, Swami Brahmananda, Baburam, of course, Premananda, Yogin, Swami Yogananda, Niranjan, Swami Niranjanananda, and Purna Chandra Ghosh. He said about Baburam, Sri Ramakrishna, I came to know Baburam's inner nature. That is why I've been trying hard to persuade him to live here. The mother bird hatches the eggs in proper time. Boys like Baburam are pure in heart. And then he said, Baburam is a proper attendant because of his perfect purity. He was one of those fortunate souls whose touch the Master could bear during Samadhi. And many were the occasions when he was found supporting the Master in that state, lest he should fall and be injured. Sometimes in 1884, Baburam begged the Master for Samadhi. Sri Ramakrishna says, all right, I'll ask the Divine Mother, as usual. Does anything happen according to my will, my child? But Baburam Maharaj insisted. But then he had to return to his native village on business. In the meantime, the Master expressed concern. You see, Baburam wept much and asked for Samadhi. What will happen if he does not have it? He will have no regard for the words of this place, that is meaning him. He then prayed to the Divine Mother, Mother, please grant Baburam that he may have a little ecstasy or some spiritual experience. The mother replied, he is not going to have any ecstasy. He will have knowledge. And this pleased the Master very much. Living with Sri Ramakrishna was a great education. He taught his disciples through his life, not merely through words. Baburam watched the Master day and night and imbibed the spirit of renunciation and purity, which are the two main pillars of spiritual life. One day, Sri Ramakrishna was resting in his room at Dakshineshwar, and Baburam and some other young boys were with Hazra on the eastern porch of the Master's room outside. Hazra, the clown, he said to Baburam and Sada, you are mere boys. You are visiting Sri Ramakrishna off and on, and he must keep you satisfied with fruits and sweets, etc. Hold him, press him, and get something from him, that is power and wealth and etc., etc. As soon as the Master heard, he shot out of his room, called Baburam, Baburam, come in immediately. Don't listen to that calculating advice. The beggar pesters the rich man saying, sir, give me a pice, give me a few cents. Being disgusted with the beggar, the rich man throws a small coin saying, take this and get out from here. You are my very own. You will not have to ask for anything from me. Whatever I have is all yours. He kept a watchful eye on all his monastic disciples, gave them spiritual instructions, and would send them to various places in Dakshineshwar at night to meditate. He generally kept Baburam and Rakal near him. He even told the Holy Mother how many pieces of chapati that is unleavened bread, should be given to each disciple. Baburam was supposed to receive 4. But Holy Mother gave him 6. And the master noticed and he took this up with him. And the Holy Mother replied firmly, "Why are you so much worried because he has a couple of more chapatis? I shall look after his future, don't worry. Don't make an issue out of this food." The master understood that the Holy Mother's actions were justified as she exercised her motherly love towards her children. Sri Ramakrishna was never inactive or lazy. When he was not in samadhi, he was busy working. And Baburam Maharaj said, we saw him working in the garden, sweeping his room. He could not tolerate any work done in a slipshod manner. He himself did everything precisely and gracefully, and he taught us to do the same. He would even scold us if we did not put the tools, etc., in the proper places. The disciples, as we know, lived with him, and when the time for Sri Ramakrishna's departure came, as he was in Kashipur, they were all serving him. They knew that Sri Ramakrishna had the power to heal himself, but he was reluctant to bring his mind from God to his body. One day the master had a hard time swallowing anything. He then said, "I shall eat later on in my subtle body through 1,000,000 mouths." Baburam responded, "I do not care for your millions of mouths of your subtle body. What I want is that you should eat through this mouth and that I should see this gross body of yours." After Sri Ramakrishna passed away in August 1886, Baburam's mother, Matangini, invited all disciples from Baranagar to join her at her native village in Anandpur. So there, Narendra, Baburam, Sharat, Shashi, Tarak, Kali, Gangadhar, and Shida traveled by train, singing devotional songs along the way. And as we know, there they took the vow of renunciation. And later on, there was the formal ceremony performed by Swamiji. He gave Baburam the name Premananda, meaning the bliss of divine love, remembering the master's remark that Sri Radha herself, the goddess of love, was partially incarnated. He would, at Baranagar, often go to Alam Bazar, and also while living there in nearby, and meditate in the master's room, forgetting food and rest. Simple, self-effacing. Now, although the monastery had a permanent home, the disciples used to leave the monastery and go about practicing austerities, pilgrimages, pilgrim places. A monk recorded his daily routine. He would get up at around 3 or 3:30 a.m. He would be in bed by 11. After ablutions, he would go to the shrine and perform the morning service to the master. Then he would meditate with the monks for a couple of hours. Then if Swami Brahmananda was at Belur, they would all go to him and bow down to him. He himself would sit with some monks, cleaning and dressing vegetables, etc. It was quite a job. Because of a large meal, various dishes, he was precise in all his work. That's because Swami Vivekananda had asked him to manage the Belur Mutt. He had also told, don't initiate anybody, because your disciples and Raja, that is Swami, Premananda's disciples will begin to quarrel and compete against each other. He had kind of a lecture tour to what is called Bangladesh. He had contracted high fever. He returned to Belur Math in the middle of June 1970. Kala Azar, a malignant fever, difficult to cure and frequently fatal. One day he expressed desire to meet the famous yogi Balananda Brahmachari of Devgar. News reached Balananda. He came to visit the Swami. Observing Premananda's physical condition, Balananda says, "Sir, monk does not have any his own, it will not last. If you kindly bring a body, it will be cured." Premananda replied, "I don't have any body." Rotten to my mind, and so my mind does not go to it at all. While leaving, Balananda said to his attendant, "His body will not last." And during this time, there was a worldwide influenza epidemic. That's nothing but that Spanish flu. Millions of Premananda of Spanish. When the sad news reached Belur Math, Shivananda went to Devgar and brought Premananda back to Balram's house. It was July 1918. He was kept in that big upper hall of Balram's house, and Swami Brahmananda was staying in the next room, and Turiyananda was downstairs. Turiyananda had a surgery in his leg in Puri, so he could not walk. Premananda wanted to see him, so the two monks carried Swami Turiyananda to Swami Premananda's room. Turiyananda sat on his bed, held his hand, and both looked at each other. What a scene! Tears began to trickle from their eyes. Both were silent. When Shardananda came from Udbodhan, Premananda said to him, "Oh, I have a great desire to put on a cloth of pure and eat rice white as jasmine." Shardananda understood. This is a symbolic description of Radha, the aspect of God of which Ramakrishna said he was a part. Shardananda then knew that Premananda would not live long. Towards the end, Premananda's condition became worse. Brahmananda was gravely pacing on the veranda and engaged his attendant to chant the hymns near Premananda. All of a sudden, he carried a picture of Sri Ramakrishna to Premananda and said, "Brother Baburam, look at the master." Brahmananda tried to suppress tears by pressing a cloth on his mouth. He left the room bursting in tears. After a while, Brahmananda returned and said, Brother Baburam, do you remember the master?" Premananda opened his eyes, looked at him with a smile, and then looked at the oil painting of the wall and saluted him with folded hands. He uttered, "Grace, grace, grace, kripa, kripa, kripa," and then passed away. It was late afternoon, Tuesday, July 30, 1918. His body was taken to Belur Math and cremated there on the banks of the Ganga. When news of Premananda's death reached Holy Mother in Udbodhan, she cried bitterly. She told the devotees, "Baburam was dearest to my heart. All the energy, devotion and wisdom of Belur Math were embodied in my Baburam. there on the banks of the Ganga. Brahmananda cried like a child and said, Belur Mutt has lost its mother. M says, Sri Ramakrishna's love aspect has disappeared. Premananda closed his Leela of love and flew away into the infinite on two powerful wings of renunciation and love. At the time of his passing, his possessions were nothing but an empty canvas bag, a couple of ochre clothes, a short tunic, a chadar, a towel, a pair of slippers, an umbrella, and a few books, including the copy of the Gita. Truly, he was Premananda, bliss in love. He was bliss and he was love, an all-consuming love that revealed itself in the service of all. This was a burning passion of his life. Towards the end of his life, he had written to someone, I feel a desire now to love everybody and at all times. This was Baburam Maharaj's love. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.